Hi there, welcome to Trapunto. My name is Jamie. This video is going to be a quick video on how to thread-based hexagon shapes for English paper piecing. Let's get into it. So thread basting is a thing. A lot of people enjoy doing it because they find it equally meditative as sewing their pieces together. This is what thread basting will look like on the back, and some people go through their papers when they thread baste. I don't, but like I said, I don't thread baste. So maybe I'm in the wrong there. I don't know. I guess for me, I wouldn't go through the paper simply because I want them to last longer. And I feel that if I'm piercing the corners multiple times, it's just going to ruin my papers, and I want to use them as many times as possible. If you puncture through the paper when you're sewing, leave me a comment as to why. What you can do with thread basting is you can put glue on the back of your piece and have it go stick down. If you don't want to do this, I saw this really great way to keep your paper from moving as you're thread basting on Teresa Down Under's channel. And what she does is she double hole punches. Depending on the size of your shape, you might only need to do one. She just goes like this. And then she did the pin the other way. You might see that people have already hole punched for their paper. And the reason some people do that is so it's easier to kind of fork it out at the end. Again, personal preference. So with thread basting, you are sewing your seam allowances around your paper instead of gluing them flat. So how to start is you just take your first seam, give it a little finger press, and I'm just going to move my pin a little bit so I don't get stuck. And then you're going to fold your second one down. And I take my needle. For this, I'm using an embroidery needle. It's longer than my quilting needle. And I'm just going to go here like this, so you can see the seams that I have taken. And this is where I do a knot. And I just will do one of those loop knots essentially to hold it in place. And I'll do it again. And you don't have to do the knot, but that's basically what you're doing for each seam. So you're bringing it along, giving a little finger press, fold the next one down, and then I go under. Pull fairly taut, and then I go under again, and then come up. And you do that all the way around your hexagon. I find that this does take a certain level of dexterity. So if you struggle with sort of fine motor skills and dexterity, this may not be best for you, just because you do need to be able to hold onto the piece, keep your finger there. See? So fold the seam down, do a little finger press, fold the next seam down, and get a good grip on there. And then do your little loop. Also, for me personally, I have an aversion to wasting thread, and I know that is my problem. I know some people will thread baste with just like the cheapest thread that they can find because it doesn't really matter. I guess I also don't really like the idea of doing this kind of work. And then when I want to take a paper out, I have to cut all these threads, and I have to make sure that all of these threads are out of my project before I start quilting it or get it long armed. Whereas with the glue, it just washes away. So we're at the last seam here. And and I'm going to end it the same way I started. And I could probably take my pins out by now, but we'll just leave them in. I just do the double knot like this. And then I can cut my thread and take my pins out. So this is a thread basted hexagon. This is what it looks like from the front. As I said, I don't normally do this, so I'm not a pro at it. There are people that can thread baste as fast as somebody can glue baste, which is impressive. I am not one of those people. And I know, as I said in my glue basting video, some people prefer it because, and I know these are different sizes, but these are both thread basted. And so when they come through, like your seams along the edge are looser. And this is an embroidery needle, so not the right size, but it should technically maybe be easier to get your needle in on that seam and find that gap between the papers. It's personal preference, you guys. Glue basting works best for me. If thread basting is your preference, then do it.